established as a specialized agency of the African Union to help member states improve their capacities to better plan, prepare and respond to extreme weather events and natural disasters, therefore protecting the food security of their vulnerable populations. Now, ARC's mission is to use modern finance mechanisms such as risk pooling and risk transfer to create pan-African climate response systems that enable African countries to meet the needs of people harmed by natural disasters. Now, for more on ARC, we're now joined in studio by Fatima Kassam, the Chief of Staff at ARC. ARC, correct, or ARC? Which one do you prefer?
ARC. Is good. Yeah.
Now, tell me about ARC. Give us an overview of the African risk capacity.
Sure. I'll start with the problem we were trying to solve, because we certainly didn't set out to create an insurance company. The problem we were trying to solve was about food security and hunger on the continent.
Yes.
And the way disaster assistance has worked for over 60 years, and we spend approximately $1 billion in Africa on emergency food assistance every year. Half of that is related to conflict and half of that is related to the weather. So drought and displacement are the largest drivers of cost. So we said, we have predictive weather models, and you may not trust the weatherman all the time, but we know what's
Nobody
coming.
does.
No one does. But we do know what's coming over a pattern of about a 30-year historical record, meteorological record. So we said, can we use these predictive weather models to be able to provide assistance immediately rather than waiting for the aid system, which takes about 4 to 5 months on average to get relief to where it's going. And at the household level, there's significant, droughts are not new, and households have developed negative coping mechanisms to deal with them. You know you're going to have a poor harvest. You start decreasing nutritional intake, skipping meals, taking children out of school, selling assets like livestock, plow oxen, cows, chickens. And it sometimes takes a decade to recover. And then you're hit by the next one.
So you're hit by a flood, like we just seen in Mozambique.
Exactly. So we said, can we provide contingent financing to governments to be able to protect the pastoralists and farmers to whom they're accountable? And that's what the ARC does.
Now, that system that you're talking about, take us through that system. What does it encompass?
Sure. A government, for example, in the case of, I can give you Senegal, for example, paid a premium last year of $3.4 million from their budget for cover of about $30 million in the case of a medium or severe drought.
So it's like 10% of the original.
Exactly. It's a pretty good price that we get from the diversity of the continental weather systems. We have about 7. Senegal now, because they've had one of the worst droughts in the last 20 years, was paid on Monday $16.5 million. That is going to Dakar-based Senegalese producers of livestock fodder, so they keep the money in the country. That's going to be food on a truck within 4 to 6 weeks out in the field. And right now, the international aid appeal is still being formulated.
Now, this seems like a very good initiative. But the pool appears to be very small in terms of your members.
Sure.
Is that correct? Or not?
It is new. It's a lot of hard work for governments to join. We work with governments for 12 to 18 months, and currently we have in the pool who have purchased policies, Kenya, Niger, Senegal, and Mauritania. We're working with 7 additional countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, Chad, the Gambia, Lesotho, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. And we're also expanding our product line. One really exciting thing is that we're building a flood index, and that will be the first in the world. It's coming out of Africa. It's very exciting. We're also looking at tropical cyclone modeling, and now outbreak and epidemic insurance at the request of our member countries.
Is it only insurance against natural disasters, or is it also political or war, for instance?
Yeah, natural disasters are objectively modeled, and conflict is not as easily modeled objectively. So yes, we in our mandate and our treaty, as signed by our 25 member countries, is really about providing contingent financing for natural disasters.
So far, all your members belong in Africa, on the continent, or is it expanding?
Well, there are different risk pools in different continents, but this is an African sovereign.
It's African, yes, okay. What are your future plans to expand your membership base?
Sure. Well, I think with the new hazards coming online, the flood, the tropical cyclone will attract a lot more members, particularly in the Indian Ocean. And then with outbreak and epidemic insurance, there are a number of countries that are vulnerable to viruses. We've seen how the Ebola crisis ravaged West Africa, and that's something that we hope to come online. It's an R&D project now, but hope to bring it online by 2017.
Now, most of the countries that we talked about now, some of them are countries that have chronic issues. Why would a country like South Africa join?
Yeah, actually, South Africa, that's a good question. South Africa in 2013 paid 180 million rand to the UN World Food Programme for relief to Lesotho. Now you're being called on to support Mozambique and Malawi. And I think that similar to other donors who have given to ARC, this is a cost-effective way to provide that continental leadership and provide that regional stability that South Africa really carries. And in addition to that, it's very, it's similar to why Nigeria has joined.
Yes.
It's a really exciting opportunity to also host potentially or the newest regional financial entity on the continent.
Does countries that contribute to ARC get their money back somehow or the other if there's no disasters in the next 10 years or not?
Well, when in a bad year, they get a payout. So,
Yes.
and you don't want to, it's a bit of a, it's almost like a backhanded thing. But on the years that in the good years, when you are paying a premium consistently into the pool, you're owning part of a mutual, because we're set up as a mutual insurance company. So the governments, in fact, own equity in the company.
Oh, that's beautiful. Now, where do you see this going in the next 20 years?
Well, in 20 years, we hope to not exist because we have crowded in the private sector effectively to offer these types of products from the meso level to the macro level where we work. The short-term goal, however, and I think we're winning, is really to attract excellent talent back to the continent in the service of the continent, to build this capacity in governments and make sure that we don't have to exist anymore.
I also indicated in my intro that you're also assisting countries to plan better
Yes.
for disasters like this. So how do you go about doing that?
Sure, we have a whole contingency planning work stream. Our member governments have adopted standards, continental standards for doing so. And before any country can even take out an insurance contract, there's a peer review mechanism within our board where the contingency plan that we help the country to build is in fact reviewed by other sovereigns. Because, for example, I mean, Kenya paid $9 million into the pool this year for their policy. It's being paid out in part to Mauritania, Senegal, and Niger. So there is a joint accountability there, and that's very effective.
So can countries join as a grouping as well, like ECOWAS or SADC or something like that, or not?
The policies are a country-by-country basis, and they are priced based on the country's risk. So we encourage countries to join, and we'd like more from the regional perspective, but we really get the diversity from across the continent.
Briefly, if government officials are currently watching this program, well, how did they get hold of you?
You can go to our website,
Yes.
africanriskcapacity.org, and we also have government coordinators in any of the countries I've mentioned who are available to assist.
Fatima, thank you so much for joining us here
Thank
on
you so
AM News.
much.
Now that
Take care.
was the Chief of Staff at the African Risk Capacity, Fatima Kassam, chatting to us. Let's